Welcome to what most likely will be my last video prior to the release of Leagues 5 tomorrow. And today we're just going to talk all things my plan, from my relic choices to the regions I'm picking and my combat style. And it feels like this has changed quite literally like 15 times over the course of the last 2 weeks. And I do want to note, if it wasn't clear already, this is a graphic for last League. So obviously there isn't Varlamore on the map, and there's a few things that have been updated since. But overall, I think the graphic just looks really good, and like 90% of it is still accurate. When it comes to regions, the first region I am going to be taking is Korinda or Zaya. Now, there's quite a few reasons for this. It doesn't really have the best Echo boss or Echo weapon with the Reprisal. One benefit is just the sheer size and it giving a ton of access to plenty of different skilling methods for a variety of different skills. I'll have both the Soul and Blood altars, which will be incredibly useful this league now, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But you also have Tithe Farm, the Woodcutting Guild, the Farming Guild, and then 2 entirely different Slayer dungeons. Now, the main reason I am picking this one is because I only have one raid region, and that is going to be Korinda this time. Last league, I went with the Desert, and I did a majority of just TOA as my raiding region. This time, we decided to change it up, and that is primarily because the people I'm going to be playing this league with wanted to do chambers. It's a lot more fun to raid in a small group than it is to consistently keep going through runs doing it by yourself. Now, my second region is going to be Asgardia. Now, my second and third region can be flipped. I haven't fully decided on which one I'm going with second. That part's still a little bit up in the air, and I'll probably just end up deciding right when I unlock my second region after the first day. Now, the reason I'm going with Asgardia, I guess we'll just go ahead and throw. I am going to be taking Melee as my Combat Mastery primary. I am going to be going the route of like a 6-3-1 or maybe even a 6-4. I'm not entirely positive on whether the secondary is going to be range or mage. I really like the standout of just increased attack speed using crossbows with range, so I'm kind of leaning that direction right now. The third region has bounced around to quite a few different options a numerous amount of times. But back to Asgardia, the main reason I'm picking this is primarily God Wars and the points you get from farming all of those bosses. I find those very easy points to get because I actually enjoy doing the content. I didn't end up going with Asgardia last year, and ultimately I kind of regretted it. So now, especially and considering I'm going Melee and I'll have access to Torva, Asgardia is a region I'm just not going to pass up again. But now for the third and final region, which I quite literally just finalized like an hour before recording this video, and I'm going to be going with Fremy. Now, the other options I've bounced between are Mauritania and the Wildy. Prior to Combat Masteries being released, I was heavily leaning on going Korinda, Asgardia, and Wildy. And I was also going to pick Mage as my combat style, hoping to pull a Shadow this time around. In terms of power, range just seems to be the clear-cut winner, but I really wanted to change things up this time around and pick Melee. Now, I did completely skip over on accident, as Asgardia, the Dog Sword, is something I'm going to have access to, which will be an incredibly useful and very strong spec weapon that I can imagine is not going to be that difficult to get, with the Cerberus being the Echo boss. And what made me remember to go back to that was the main reason I'm really picking Fremy is because of these Echo DKs. And honestly, I think it has the strongest Echo items, being both the necklace and the ring. Fremy also gives me decent access to quite a few bosses. This time around we'll have Duke. I'll have the Muspa, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I'll just grind myself and force my way through that one a little bit. I do enjoy Vorkath, and I also really enjoy the Dagannoth Kings. I imagine the Echo version is going to give quite the challenge. But even now, with the basic version being an instance, it's a lot less of a headache to try to get a room. I do unfortunately have to pass up using the Thunder Kopesh now that I'm not going to be taking Wildy, so I really am kind of banking on getting the Scythe. In terms of gear, the final gear I believe that I have available in terms of best in slot is basically full Torva with a Scythe. I can get full Ferocious Gloves now because you only need access to Korinda. I'll be able to have Prims, both of the new jewelries from the Echo DKs. Infernal Cape will be a little interesting. That's kind of why I'm leaning going on the quicker attack speed for range. Having that unlocked right before I go for the 10th Combat Mastery and unlocking the Infernal Cape will be incredibly handy. Obviously, there is a lot of RNG that goes into actually obtaining this setup. Now, fortunately, Bandos is incredibly farmable content, so I will be able to get gear pretty easily that is just a slight step down compared to this. Weapon-wise, I'll probably be camping a Zombie Axe with a Dragon Defender for a majority of the league. I think that is my best in slot in terms of like mid-tier melee. And these step downs will be like a B-Ring, Dragon Boots, and then like an Amulet of Fury and a Fire Cape. Combine those with the melee relics, and that still should be a relatively strong setup for a majority of the content I'm going to be trying. But at the end of the day, we're really just hoping for a Scythe because that's what makes the build as fun as it should be. But those are my 3 regions plus the combat style. Zaya, Asgardia, Fremy is the most likely order. Now in terms of relics, Tier 1 Relic, or Tier 0 I guess actually, is going to be the Wrangler. They did flip both of these icons around, so it'll be the Harpooner is the one I'm going with for Tier 0. Tier 1 I'm going to be going with Dodgy Deals. Thieving as a skill is one I absolutely despise, despite it being very fast. So this is one I don't really want to pass up because it very easily passively gets me to 99. Tier 3 I'm going to be going Clue Compass. Hopefully, even with how hard they're going to be scaling down the amount of clue scroll points, there is still a decent chunk I can take advantage of this relic with. Even with clues outside of the equation, all the stash units are a ton of available teleports around my regions. Tier 4 is one I bounce around a lot with. I was bouncing between Reloaded and Golden God. Equilibrium's not one I really care to ever take. Even if my plan is to max in this league, a bunch of passive XP just doesn't seem that cool as an add-on. Initially, I was going to be going with Reloaded and then doubling it up with Friendly Forager to take care of the Herblore problem. But because of one of my later choices, I've actually gone against that, and I'm now going to be going with Golden God. One, it solves both a magic and prayer problem, if even you could consider it a problem. Realistically, it just takes care of them, and I don't have to even worry about it whatsoever. Golden God also has some very good synergy with Fremy and Training Construction. And out of all the available early options and the ones I'm going to be going with later, it just doesn't seem like that good of a choice to go with Reloaded. Now for Tier 5, I think this one was an incredibly difficult choice. Having access to Clue Compass, I don't feel like I have to take Treasure Arbiter. If I can already teleport 2 clue steps, I don't need them to be completable in the fewest amount of steps possible. And I'm not a person that absolutely loves doing clues, so I'm going to get plenty of them passively over time doing Slayer. I don't need a massive increase in terms of drop rates. Slayer Master is stupidly strong when it comes to training Slayer, but realistically it only helps with one skill, so I am going to be taking Production Master. Because just like I said, it's just going to make a bigger impact on a variety of skills rather than just one. Slayer is a skill I already enjoy, so I can kind of force my way through some of the crappy tasks. Opposed to there's really just never a time I want to sit down and train crafting all the way to 99, and Production Master will shave off a ton of time when it comes to doing that. Tier 6, between Banker's Note and Total Recall, I am going to be going with Banker's Note. Total Recall spamming with Dog Sword special attacks was a method I heavily considered, but between skilling and just pure convenience, I am going to be going Banker's Note, and there's still plenty of PVM aspects it does bring. Now, Tier 7, this is the reason I didn't end up going Friendly Forager earlier, because I'm going to be taking Overgrown. Yes, I am passing up Grimoire and the extra DPS boost I'm going to be getting from Piety, and that really just comes down to personal preference. I enjoy doing PVM, so if it takes me an extra 15 seconds to kill some bosses, I just don't really care. Opposed to every hour needing to take a farm run so I can keep up with my potions for PVM supplies. Now for the last Tier 7, considering my regions, my combat style, and the weapons I have, I am definitely going to be going with Specialist. Either the Dog Sword or the Dragon Claws are two very good special attack weapons I'm going to be doing some gnarly damage with. As a quick side note before we end off the video, I do think I am going to be playing 2 accounts in this league. Range in general is my favorite combat style, and I think with these combat masteries, it is too strong to pass the opportunity up to play with it. I think I'll end up making a second account going with Desert and Wildy because I wanted to go Wildy with my original account. Third region I'm not entirely decided on, but it'll probably be between Tyrannin and Fremy. Fremy gives access to the very good jewelry with range, but ultimately I'll just end up seeing how much I want to repeat a lot of the same content I already did on the other account. But with that, I think that's everything I wanted to include in this video. That is all of my relics, my regions, and the combat style I'll be going with for Leagues 5. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys ultimately ended up going with. I know there was a ton of changes throughout all of the reveals we were getting. I know people in the League's Discord were changing by the hour, not even by the day. If you guys did enjoy the video, consider dropping a like. If you do not have a day 1 plan already, I do have a day 1 guide. I'll link that down in the description below. Otherwise, I hope your guys' league start goes to plan, and I'll catch you in the next one.